Hey, thank Radhe Radhe. Thank you, Smita ji, for a wonderful session. Who's the co-host? Is it Sandhya or Shyamji? I don't want to steal.
Radhe Radhe.
Shyamji.
I'm the co-host today. Thank you so much. We welcome all you to the
Your audio.
session of Gita today, Bhagavad Gita. Is it okay today? Not okay.
Yeah,
Can
it
you
was.
hear me clearly?
Yeah, now it was okay. It was breaking in between.
It does break at times. Bye.
Okay, no worries.
Sorry for that.
No worries.
So we are on time today.
Yes.
So let's start the session. Bye. Over to you. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Thank you, Shyamji. Great session. The previous one followed part of that conversation towards the end on Guru. We are also approaching that topic in 4.34, and we're going to discuss that in good details as well. So today we move on to the next shloka, 4.17, and we're going to talk about the categories of activities, categories of karma. We spoke about Karam Yoga at length, and Karam Yoga is also going to make a comeback. But don't worry, we're not going to spend a week on that this time around. But then there are two more categories that Lord Krishna is talking about, and those are the ones we will introduce today. And the first category will pick up. It is definitely more than a one session shloka. So we'll see how far we go, and we're going to have an interesting conversation like we always do as well. So welcome again, everybody. Very warm good morning, good evening. Let me share my screen and we will be getting started. Are you able to see my screen all right? Okay. Let's do our opening prayers and then we should get started. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Ishwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsuchandamardaram Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Good morning, good evening again. Very warm welcome to today's session. So we'll move on to our next shloka, 4.17. I'm going to recite it and then you're welcome to follow. Karmano hyapi bodhavyam bodhavyam cha vikarmanaha akarmanascha bodhavyam gahana karmano gatihi. All right. Do you have any volunteers who want to take Shyamji? I can see Surendraji. Please go ahead. Shyamji, you may want to call out for this. Yes, Surendraji, please go ahead. Shyamji, you are on mute, by the way.
Yeah. Thank you, Nitinji. Thank you.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Karmano happy bodhavyam bodhyam cha vikarmana akarmanascha bodhyam gahana karmano gati.
Nice, bodhavyam, bodhavyam.
Bodhavyam gahana karmano gati.
Yeah, thank you very much, Radha.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, I can see a few of the hands as well. Let's take Payalji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
कर्मणो यपि बोद्धव्यं बोद्धव्यं च विकर्मणः अकर्मणश्च बोद्धव्यं गहना कर्मणो गतिः.
Very nice.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Thank you, Payalji. Yes, Shyamji, is your audio back?
Yes, it is back. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Sorry.
Meenakshi ji, Radhe Radhe. Please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, Meenakshi ji.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
कर्मणो ह्यपि बोद्धव्यं बोद्धव्यं च विकर्मणः अकर्मणश्च बोद्धव्यं गहना कर्मणो गतिः. Radhe Radhe.
Wonderful. Very nice, Meenakshi ji. Radhe Radhe. All right. Who do we have next? Shyamji.
Samji, Radhe Radhe.
Yes, Sam. Radhe Radhe.
कर्मणो हयापि बोध्यायं बोध्यं चापि विकर्मणाम् अकर्मणश्च बोध्यायं गहना कर्मणो गति. राधे राधे.
Shyamji, yeah. It's bodhavyam. Bodhavyam. Yeah. All right. Let's take few more hands and we'll get started then.
Venkat ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Venkat ji.
राधे राधे श्याम जी राधे राधे नितिन जी. कर्मणो ह्यपि बोद्धव्यं बोद्धव्यं च विकर्मणः अकर्मण्यश्च बोद्धव्यं गहना कर्मणो हि गतिः.
Very nice, Venkat ji. That was a fast track recitation. Very nice. All right. Let's take the remaining hands as well, real quick.
Shruti ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Shyamji, Radhe Radhe Nitin. Karmano yapi bodhavyam bodhavyam cha vikarmanaha akarmanascha bodhavyam gahana karmano gati. Radhe.
Okay, Shruti. That was the comeback of the year. So very nice. All right. Do we have more hands? Let's take.
Yeah, we have few more hands. Bhai.
Yeah, let's take everyone.
Sumesh ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Nitin ji, Radhe Radhe everyone.
Radhe Radhe, Sumesh ji.
Happy bodhavyam bodhavyam cha vikarmanaha akarmanascha bodhavyam gahana karmano gati.
Very nice, Sumesh ji.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. All right. Let's take 3 more hands. 4 more hands, I think. Let's take 4 more hands.
Udit Kumar ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
कर्मणो ह्यपि बोद्धव्यं च विकर्मणः अकर्मणश्च बोद्धव्यं गहना कर्मणो गतिः. Radhe Radhe.
Ji, Radhe Radhe. All right. Let's take the remaining hands real quick.
Nita ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Nitya ji.
Radhe Radhe Nitin ji, Radhe Radhe Shyam ji.
Please go ahead.
Karmano hayapi bodhavyam bodhavyam cha vikarmanaha akarmanascha bodhavyam gehena karmano gati.
Wonderful.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. We are down to last 3. Let's do that and then we'll get started.
Lakshmi ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Lakshmi ji.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe everyone.
Radhe Radhe.
Karmano happy bodhavyam bodhavyam cha vikarmanaha akarmanascha bodhavyam gahana karmano gatihi.
Thank you,
Radhe
Lakshmi
Radhe.
ji. We missed your bus today. Radhe Radhe. All right. Last 2 hands. Let's take those. Ashutosh ji and Sandhya have been raised.
Ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
I could not see his hand raised for some time because it was background was yellow, hand was yellow, so I missed him. So sorry. Please go ahead.
No worries.
कर्मणो यपि बोद्धव्यं बोद्धव्यं च विकर्मणः अकर्मणस्य बोधव्यं गहना गहना कर्मणो गतिः.
Wonderful, Ashutoshi. Radhe Radhe. Thank you very much. All right. Sandhya.
Sandhya ji, Radhe Radhe.
राधे राधे.
Radhe Radhe.
कर्मणो ह्यपि बोद्धव्यं बोद्धव्यं च विकर्मणः अकर्मणश्च बोद्धव्यं गहना कर्मणो गतिः.
Wonderful, Sandhya. All right. I think we can take real quick last two as well, Riya ji and Rupa ji, and no more after that.
Yeah. Riya ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Riya ji.
Mano yapi bodhavyam bodhavyam cha vikarmanaha akarmanascha bodhavyam gahana karmano gatihi.
Very nice, Riya ji. All right. Last but not the least, Rupa ji, please go ahead.
Rupa ji,
Radhe
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 Radhe.
everyone.
Rupa ji.
Karmano hyapi bodhavyam bodhavyam cha vikarmanaha akarmanasha cha bodhavyam gahana karmano gatihi.
Thank you, Rupa ji. Very nice. Looks like when Lakshmi ji turns on her camera, you do the same. And then when you turn it, Lakshmi ji turns on as well. So we missed you on screen, but let's get started. All right. So this shloka, Lord Krishna is going to introduce a concept of the different kind of karmas or the activities that we perform. So pay close attention to that because these concepts are very, 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 very important. The activities that we perform would invariably fall into one of these three categories. Now, karmani means action. Akarma means inaction. Ya, who, pashet. Okay, I shouldn't be talking that. Okay. Karmana, recommended action. He certainly. Api also. Bodhavyam should be known. Bodhavyam must understand. Cha and vikarmana, forbidden action. Akarmana, inaction. Cha and bodhavyam must understand. Gahana, profound. Karmana, of action. Gati, the true path. So the short translation for this shloka goes like, you must understand the nature of all three: recommended action, wrong action, and inaction. The truth about these is profound and difficult to understand. It's very difficult to understand which action category are we falling into. Yesterday we spoke about the concept of dharma. It's not something which is even to the most intelligent and discerning minds, we cannot make a right call. That is how difficult it is, right? And karmas are also influenced by our definition of dharma, or what we lay importance to in the station or the stage of life that we are in. So let's get started. So today we are going to discuss, as you can see, there is a line, and then on one end of the line, as you see, are positive actions with a smiley, encouraging karmas or actions. On the other hand, you can see not so positive, you can call it as negative actions. And then the third one is the neutral actions. Okay, neither positive nor negative. It's like whatever actions. Now, given a choice, we're not going to have a detailed discussion. Which one would you choose given a choice? Maybe a couple of hands. Want to show with a show of hands? Let me ask that. How many of you would choose positive actions? Okay, just one hand.
Yeah.
Okay, positive actions. Yeah, majorities. Okay, quite a few people are raising for positive actions. And how much of you would go for the negative actions? Anybody? You may have to lower your hands. Okay. Chetan wants to go for negative actions. All right, we need to talk. All right, no worries. Anybody who wants to go for neutral actions? Neutral.
No one.
No one. Okay. Quite a few hands I see.
I have a few hands, yeah.
So neutral action.
Pallavi ji, Kshitij ji, Jyoti ji.
Okay.
I guess all are still hands.
All right, good to know. All right, so let's get into the concept now. We will pick up, we'll look at the different kind of karmas to begin with, and then we will get into the theory behind those karmas. Like I said, it is definitely not a one one session discussion. This topic actually in itself can go on for months, but don't worry, we will not do that. But we will at least go into the required depths of this topic as best as we possibly can. The amount of content on these three topics is it itself can go on for next 2 months. Okay, but we will not go too deep, but at the same time we'll make sure we have tilled the ground enough to understand these concepts. Now let's get started. There are 4 categories of activities. What are those 4 activities categories? Let's look at those. So these activities are, the first one, as you see, is called karma. This is the karma. The second category is called Vikarma. The third category is called Akarma, aka also known as Karma Yoga. We have discussed this concept in great detail, right? The Karma Yoga is also called Akarma. And then the last category is Karma Sannyas. We've spoken about the last 2 in great detail. So karma, vikarma, akarma, and karma sannyas. The 2 categories you are fairly comfortable with. We have spoken this topic at length. We will briefly touch upon that for the benefit of participants who could not attend that series or who may have doubt, but we are going to focus our attention. So today we are going to focus on karma aspect of it. What is karma actually? As defined by our scriptures and as defined by Lord Krishna. Upanishads, we'll look at Upanishads, we'll take references from different scriptures to understand this concept around karma. All right. There is a song also, right? Mera Karam. Anyways. All right. Now we'll get into this concept of. Now, the next question, of course, is why are we introducing these concepts? Okay. What's the need to understand these? There has to be a need for anything for us to undertake that, right? So there is definitely a very compelling need to understand these concepts. And that need is driven by, you see this baggage? When do we need the baggage? When we are traveling somewhere. And we are global, serial, universal, incorrigible, inveterate travelers, okay, of 8.4 million tourism that we are doing. That is what we are doing, this tourism that we are doing. Now, what is this baggage? This baggage is the baggage of our subtle body that we keep on carrying wherever we do. Okay, which is, if we say chitta is something that accompanies us across lifetimes. And second thing that accompanies us along with chitta is Paramatma, God himself. So God is our sambandhi. If a jnani does chitta nivritti, then the chitta is finished. Until then, chitta accompanies us as well. And when Mahapralaya happens, even chitta dissolves, because chitta is also made up of Maya. Then only Sukshma Sharif, the Karan Sharif remains, causal body. Anyway, we'll not get too much into that detail. But the point here is, this is the baggage of our subtle body that accompanies us lifetime after lifetime after lifetime in all the 8.4 million species that we go, right? So when you are a frog, it's not that you think like a human, but that chip is in latent stage as a human. Any other species basically are called bhogyonis, where whichever body you inhabit, you just go by that script. For if you become a lion, obviously all you care for is, those 4 primal activities that animals do, feeding yourself, and you are instinct driven. You are not given the faculty of discrimination at that point. And even if a lion commits a murder, what is a murder for a lion? He eats a human, then it will not be recorded as a karma, because it is a bhogyoni, right? Similar to the bhogyoni that we get in hellish abodes and even in celestial abodes. That is a human bhogyoni, and this is a non-human bhogyoni. So again, this is the baggage that we carry for the 8.4 million tourism that we have been enthusiastically participating in. So what Lord Krishna is saying, the 4 categories of karma that we introduced here, if we don't understand this, this is going to make us repeat in this tourism that we are doing. Now, the objective is to get out of this and take a flight to God realization so that we can get divine love, divine bliss, and divine knowledge. So the 2 steps, first we understand the categories of the activities that we are performing, which is karma, Vikarma, Akaram, and Karam Sannyas. So we have to understand which category would enable us, which category of karma would enable us to break this matrix of 8.4 million. I think one of the questions that came from Samji was, how do we get human? Do we have to go back into the cycle of 8.4 million every time? Or can we get a back-to-back human birth? Or is it like, how does it work? So this is a very interesting question. So I had asked the same question to Swamiji, and he had in turn had asked that question to Maharajji as well. So what he told was, see, after a lot of blessings, basically it's a grace of God when we get a human body. Now what he said was very interesting answer. He said that if you have spent 50% or more of your life in Bhagavad Vishay, making God as a priority, then you can think about getting a back-to-back human life. Otherwise, there is no guarantee. Does it mean you will have to again wait 8.4 million? Possibly, possibly not. We don't know that algorithm of God. Okay, maybe sometimes he does whatever, but then basically, if you go by the rule, you wasted the human body, just not think of it. Now, God is saying that now, how soon will he give you human birth? Only he knows. We have a story in our scriptures, Jagabharat story is there. Jagbharat story is there. He had a lot of spiritual merit. But because of one blunder he did, now he has spiritual merit. He had possibly invested a lot of time, more than 50% of his life in Bhagavad Vishay and thinking about God. But then at the time of his death, now Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, whatever you remember at the time of your death is what you end up achieving in your next life. So be very cautious about your secret stash. If your secret stash is money, if your secret stash is food, if your secret stash is a particular relation, wherever they will go, you'll have to follow them. And that is what you'll end up achieving. You cannot say that. When I heard this for the first time, I said, all right, I've got a hack. Hack means no matter what you do in life, finally you simply think about God and you are a done deal. No, not possible. Your entire life slideshow, when it will come in front of you, the things where you have predominantly invested your time, thoughts, energy, emotion is going to dictate what you end up thinking at that time. That is how this rule goes. So Jagabharat, although he had spent it more than 50%, but then he got attached to a deer. Deers, there was a deer, she deer, and then she conceived the baby and she had to run off and he got attached. He started taking care of that baby. And at the time of his death, all he was thinking was about that deer, who's going to take care of it. So much attachment he got. In fact, it is said that these 2 personalities people get attached to very normally. One is babies and second is pets. Why? Babies, when they grow, obviously they start showing you eyes, they will not listen to you. So only till babies, even after that, that continues, but a little less. But pets, they are completely dependent on you. Right? So his mind got attached to that. And now, did he have to go through 8.4 million? I don't know, scriptures have mentioned that, but he soon got a human birth and he realized his mistake and then he corrected that mistake in that life. So the rule is, if we lead our life around primal instincts about eating, mating, sleeping, and defending, then there is, I don't know, there's no reason for God to give us a human birth like a scholarship. It's like hitting a scholarship. If somebody gets a scholarship and they drink and smoke away to glory, will they get scholarship again? No. So that is why when we get human birth, it's a huge responsibility. Like it is said in Bible also, to whom much is given, much is expected as well. So when you become a human, it's actually much is given already to you. So God expects us to rise above the mundane activities of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, because animals also do that. And if we continue doing that in a luxury way, then we don't know which species we'll end up into. So this is how this goes. So for the benefit or to motivate yourself, we can safely assume that, yeah, human birth is very precious. It doesn't come just like that. And 8.4 million has been waiting for us and is waiting for us if we don't make a good use of it. But if we make God as a priority, and if for some reason we cannot complete this journey, then Lord Krishna himself says that he will make sure that we are born in a family where we can continue this journey early on in life. But for that, you need to have made God as your priority or spirituality as your priority. If you simply want to experience world, then obviously you'll come to world, but God will give you in due course of time, not as a merit on back-to-back human life. So the only hack or the formula that I have understood based on Shimaraji and Swamiji's teaching is that if you invest 50% of your life in God-related topics, then back-to-back human life is possible. Otherwise, there is no guarantee. All right, hopefully that answers part of your question, Samji. I wish I had a better formula. Unfortunately, I don't have. But whatever I knew, I have already. Yes, Shamji, you had a question?
Comment in the chat box from Anusha ji. She says, if the goal is God realization and God realization can happen only through human form, then why are there 8.4 million life forms? Shouldn't human life be the only life form?
No, you can ask Brahmaji why so much of diversity. If you only see one kind of a thing, you'll probably get bored. So there is probably a reason for 8.4 million species. Every species probably teaches you a lesson that you can put it all together in human birth, right? Look at ant, look at honeybees, how selflessly they work for the queen bee. Look at dog, the kind of loyalty it carries. Look at ant, amount of hard work it does. Maybe there is a reason. Even in fact, yogic asanas are also 8.4 million. So there must be some reason for that. God is an intelligent creator, right? Nothing is done whimsically or just for the sake of it. So I think there is some lesson in everything. And then human birth is anyway given as a special reward to put it all together and actually progress in this journey. Yes, Jyoti, you wanted to add something?
Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. Radhe Radhe. I'm sorry. Nitin Bhai said the answer at the last sentence, so I don't have anything to add. The only thing I was going to say was that these animal species or anything that we have is the desire that we carry. It's our own desires, it's our own reward or punishment for what we do. If I lay like a tree all day long because I'm lazy, in my next life I'll be a tree. If I have the vritti that I admire a plant form or an animal form, then that is going to be my next life. Radhe Radhe.
That's true. It just falls perfectly in place. And I think there's a reason to create that variety as well. So people who say, I don't have time, I don't have time, I don't have time, then you may become a tree where you'll have a lot of time. People who are always feeling sleepy and sloth, they may become polar bear. People who just want to hawk, put anything and everything that gets into their stomach, they may enjoy the pig yoni, right? I mean, it seems a little absurd to hear that, but this is how it actually pans out. So next time you start thinking, saying, I don't have time for this, think about it. Okay, trees have all the time in the world. For thousands of years, they just have time, nothing else. So every yoni is a bhog yoni, and it is given to us based on our, tendencies, and a lot of things fall in place. God has a perfect and good.
You mean to say that our scriptures mean to say that this birth we have got because of grace of God, and in this birth we can decide what is the next birth. Is that so?
Very true.
Precise.
You dictate to a larger extent based on the kind of life you have led and the kind of desires you have made. Because God, being an indulgent father, arranges for it. Right? If you die with a thing, oh, only if I had become a millionaire, then. But if you have done enough punya karma, maybe he'll give you an opportunity to see even after becoming that, nothing happened. So be very
scary.
Desires that you make is what basically.
That's very scary. So we have to control our thoughts and desires and be very profound whatever we think, whatever we do.
It is. I won't call it scary, but it just puts things in perspective. So spirituality beyond a point, it becomes a serious business. If you think about it, it is actually, you're actually carving out your future destiny. Now, let's say human birth you get, but then it is not the end of the story, right? We need to be mindful around the activities or the karmas that we do. Because if we don't do, let's look at some of the afflictions that we have to contend with. Okay, pancha kleshas. I'm briefly going to touch upon that. So these 5 gentlemen, as you see, it all starts with the mother of all the other kleshas, avidya. That is the biggest one, ignorance. Okay, this ignorance about who we are. We consider ourselves as a body, what is temporary, we consider eternal. impure as pure, false at truth. All these are born out of ignorance. This is the mother of all the other things. And then after that, what are the other things that stem from it? Asmita, I-amness, identifying ourselves with our ego. We create a self-image, we project it and keep living up to that image. And then we think I'm poor, I'm so and so and all that stuff. That is called asmita, the false projection of ourselves, forgetting our real identity. So this is called panchaklesh. The third one is, in fact, it goes hand in hand with the fourth one as well, rag and dvesh. Our life is a continuum of rag and dvesh, isn't it? Something we desire, something we like, and something we have an aversion towards. I like this, I don't like this. I want this, I don't want this. I like to see this, I don't like to see this. So that is called rag and dvesh. This is one of the kaleshas we have to deal with. And the last one is abhivinesh, which where we think our existence is going to cease. We all like to live, right? Even a person who says, hey God, why don't you lift me? Enough of trouble in my life. And you go and say, okay, let me kill you. He'll say, no, let me live. So point is, we all want to live. Nobody wants to die. And there is a fear of death, which is the topmost fear in this world. Second one is public speaking, by the way. So these are the panchaklesh that we have to deal with because of the karma, the incorrect category of karma that we have slated ourselves into. Okay, I'm just telling you why we should do that. One would say, why should I need to know what kind of karma I fall into? Of course, we need to know, but because it's only because of that we are repeating in this 8.4 million species. We are doing binding stuff and we are doing things. And as a consequence of that, we have to deal with panchaklesh. What else do we have to deal with? We do have to deal with tridosh, tritap, and other things. I'll briefly touch upon it without getting too much into detail. Trikarma, sanchit karam, prarabdh karam, and kriyaman. There is no escape from this in human birth. Then we have to deal with tritap, adi bhautik, adi daivik, and adhyatmik, right? And can anybody escape that? Nobody can escape that. Material sufferings that we are caused by the other human beings, then they are caused by the natural calamities that happen. And then the third one is the ones that we bring upon ourselves or people bring upon us, like anger, greed, ego, misapprehension, physical diseases, cough, fever, virus, all that stuff. Okay, we all have to deal with it. There's absolutely no escape from that. Right? In fact, it is said that in order to progress towards God, you have to give up GAD. What is GAD? GAD is greed, anger, and desire. They are also called, it's like Kaph, Vat, and Pit. We have in Ayurveda, we have to get rid of these three elements as well. These are the big ones. So there's no escape from that. Now getting back to the karma part. Yes, Kumar, you had a question? See,
Radhe Radhe.
He has not spoken, so you are preempting your hand today.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe. Okay. Yeah, no, actually, I had a comment that, I think once, I had this question, pets, people all, especially, like in India, you don't think much of pets, or at least we did not, or many of us did not when we were there. But when you come here, many of the pets are treated much more.
So question. Yeah, what's the question on that?
Okay. So the question was, why should we not have pets? Right?
No issues whatsoever. But you still have to, when you go to Rome, you have to follow the rules of Rome will apply to you, right? So if you are in UK, you have to drive, it's a left wheel drive. You come to US, it's a right wheel drive. Similarly, when you go to moon, the gravity is 1/6. When you are on Earth, it is 6 times more than moon. Similarly, when you are on Earth or you are in material creation, the spiritual laws apply. So you have pet, you create an army of pets. But wherever your attachment is, the spiritual law says of God, that is what you will end up achieving. So if you love a dog and the dog ends up becoming human, you will become a human. If the dog ends up becoming a dog, you'll have to become dog. You have to follow that. Wherever your attachment is, you have to follow that. It's a very simple principle, spiritual principle. Like an indulgent father, God will not say, no. You're getting your attachment. You have to attach your mind to me. He said, you figure it out. I've given you discrimination, knowledge, free will. Whatever your attachment is, that's where you will go. Whichever.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think I think Swamiji also answered this in one of the SME session or something like that. I think he said that, and I think that's what you're saying as well. We get attached to, like pets. People get more attached even than human beings. I've seen people having pets, and many people treat those pets better than their spouses as well, right? So, but it's an attachment, and probably a stronger attachment than even people can have people.
Yeah, so with knowledge, we got to be careful about it. That's all. Dad is a veterinary doctor, right? He never brought a pet at home because he had seen enough examples in life to see how much people get emotional. Until one day, my brother, he brought in a one-eyed, dog, and then rest is history. So yes, it can happen, but with knowledge, you have to look at things in perspective. You cannot say no. Attachment is my birthright. It's just like that joke, right? A guy sees a banana peel and say, "Oh my God, now I have to fall." Right? And then he sees two banana peels. He say, "No, I have to fall twice." And then he sees three, and then he says, "I wish I had three legs." And then he says four, and he thinks, "I wish my life was also long." So point is, we are not obligated to get attached. With knowledge, you can beat this.
That was a joke I never heard before. The banana. Thank you, Radhe Radhe.
So we are not obligated to slip. Okay, we have a choice, and with perspective, we can be mindful. Watch our mind where it is getting. Why does it get attached? We keep on repeatedly contemplating upon it. So we've got to be very careful about it because we are carving out our destiny. And if you have bitterness and resentment towards somebody, let's say you die with some kind of a bitterness or anger towards somebody, you didn't give it a closure, you'll have to repeat because the account is not yet settled. So we got to be careful. Do we want to repeat in this world just because I harbored some bitterment or resentment? That is why it's important to forgive, to heal. You want to close out accounts. If you have not given money to somebody, you just, people run away with Ponzi schemes. Now you'll have to take so many births because you have, in spiritual world, unless you have cleared off your accounts or you have realized God said perfectly surrendered, you have to come and clear it. So we got to be very careful in our life. Are we accruing debts that you would have to clear off? Similarly, for attachment, also we got to be very careful because we are obligated to follow whichever species our object of attachment goes in. That is a very simple rule. All right. So we getting back to this topic of karma, we spoke about positive actions. Basically, let's say karma is the ones actions that are positive or in conjunction with scripture. So let's say what our Upanishads are talking about it. So our Upanishad says that the sages who have practically followed the path of karma have concluded that it does not lead to liberation. It only leads in the attainment of celestial abodes. So if you do karma, we will look at some more examples, get more. If you simply do karma, perfect karma, in accordance with the teachings of scriptures, as per your varnashram dharam, as per your best understanding of your dharma, will it lead you to liberation? The answer is a flat no. No means no. Very clearly, our scriptures are saying karma does not lead us to liberation. Okay. Let's continue further. Now, let's take some reference from Bhagavad Gita on this. Now, karma is actually a strict observance of ritualistic actions specified by Vedas and scriptures. The devotion element is missing in that. So let's take some references from Bhagavad Gita, what it has to say about it. Now, BG 2.42, Yamimam Pushpitam, right? It says that result of karma is the attainment of celestial abodes. We have spoken about this concept multiple times. Where there are greater pleasures than those on the earth. Such way, words of praise deceive foolish people, but the wise are not deceived. So when they say words of praise means the flowery word of our scriptures. This is what 2.42 says. 9.21 says, Te tam bhuktva swargalokam vishalam kshine punye matyalokam vishanti. Basically, this is the withdrawal only account that we have spoken about. It says, celestial abodes are attained only for a limited period of time, after which one has to return to this earth due to the bondage of past actions. So you might be Mr. Indra, but then after that you might become an ant. There's a story in Bhagavatam actually talks about a rishi he's standing alongside Indra, and there is a train of ants which is going, and he said, who are these? So he said, these are all the past Indras. So just think, if you've been a celestial king and now you're again back to 8.4 million, how bad that feeling would be. But the good thing is you don't remember that. You just start from that. And then last but not the least, the third shloka, Lord Krishna himself is saying Devi 7:14, Hvesha Gunamai Mam Maya Duratyaya Mameva Ye Prapadyante Maya Metam Tarantite. It only one who surrenders exclusively to God can cross over Maya. Eva word is the buzzword here, which means the fact that apart from surrender to God, there is no other way. Now, if you surrender to your kid, you are surrendered to your family, you are surrendered to your father, mother, relative, friend, whoever, prime minister, it will not work. Only if you are surrendered to God. God says exclusively, and then exclusively means ananyata needs to be there. You cannot have 15 gods in front of you, right? And hedging your bets like we do in stocks. Okay, if this stock goes up, this will come down, the other will go up. You do the risk mitigation strategy. Okay, if Krishna doesn't listen to me, maybe Ganeshji will. If Ganeshji not, maybe Shivji will. And you make them bath all together, so that little bit you can do for all. Doesn't work that way. Ananyata is needed. Okay, so you pick up a Ishtadev and then start digging that well. If you're going to have 15 gods, that you are doing a risk mitigation strategy, ananyata will not come, exclusivity will not come, because your mind will be scattered. And that is why, because of the first klesh that we spoke about, which is ignorance, we thinking they are different, just two different forms of the same energy. You pick one and start digging that well. If you start digging multiple wells, you will not find water anywhere. You will not have ananyata, and you will not fit the category of eva, exclusive devotion. And then your devotion will be driven by your self-interest. I need this, maybe Ganesha will give me, maybe Hanumanji will give me. Anyways, Hanumanji is the most troubled demigod because people approach him for marriage, or even though he's a Akhanda Brahmachari himself, right? So anyways. So this is the concept. So any questions so far? And I'm going to give you a homework as well before we get into questions. So your homework for tomorrow is where we are going to introduce another concept, which is, I want to see the definition. Who can give a nice definition for this? What is Falgu Vairagya? That will lead us into the second aspect of Karam that we're going to discuss tomorrow. So you can do a bit of research on your end and try to get your head around this concept. Now we'll start some homework classwork as well. What is Falgu Vairagya? And these are some of the things that actually prevent us from realizing or progressing towards God and keep us basically in this tourism that we spoke about. Any questions on what we have discussed? And then we'll get into a bit of a discussion as well.
Bhai, we have few comments raised in the chat box.
Yeah.
The earlier one, Sanjay ji said it's like a great opportunity of controlling our destiny by our thoughts.
Yep, thought by thought,
and
thoughts by thoughts, we forge our destiny. Swamiji has so beautifully written that. So thought by thought, like it's like brick by brick, we build a building. Similarly, thought by thought, we are forging. So every thought that comes to our mind actually is responsible for laying out the foundation or laying out the basis of our future destiny. And that is why there's a saying as well that the responsibility of greatness falls on the every thought that we allow to, harbor in our mind. If you have to become great, every thought has to support that. Very true. Yes. What else?
And Shiramya ji says, is this definition of karma applicable in Kali Yuga? Because no one follows ritualistic procedures these days. That's what I also think, because we as this group is doing what we are supposed to do, but majority people do not know what they are doing, and still they are doing what they are doing. So
it's in a hybrid. Yeah, Shri Ramyaji, it's a very valid question, and that is where we'll introduce the other karmas. Tomorrow that we are going to discuss, we will talk about where Kali Yuga people, most of the people, which category they fall into. But there are shades of gray, I would say, between karma and the other category that I spoke about. Nobody's in black and white. Life is all about gray. But yeah, predominantly where they fall into, we'll see. But if we lead our life in accordance with the scriptural injunctions, first of all with an assumption that we do understand it. We have had an opportunity to understand it, and when if we leave it, then we fall into karma category. Okay, but the key point here to understand is even if you do perfect karmas, still it will not lead you to liberation or bhakti. It is still not good enough. Okay? That is the bar God has set. So we'll get into the other aspects of karma tomorrow, more detail, but you do your homework around the Falgu Vairagya and we will have a good discussion leading up to the remaining categories of karma as well.
So as you said that people who are in this karma, do this karma yoga, that means people who do not know what scriptures say and people like us who know what to do. So are they the same boat?
I
Because
didn't speak about karma yoga. You are attached to
karma.
yoga. You attached yoga. I never said yoga, karma yoga. I just said
Karma. Okay. And she Ramaji says, can I answer homework for question for now about Falgu Vairagya? Can she answer now?
We can take that after we take some of the hands that are raised, and then we can get into Falgu Vairagya if you want to talk about that as well. Okay. So you're like that top student who wants to do the homework in the class itself. So we'll get into that as well.
Yeah. Ankit ji, Radhe Radhe.
Hey, by the way, the trivia that I had asked you, sorry, I'll just finish that off before I forget. That what is the Hindi of button? Okay. I want to tell you before I forget, it is called Asta Vyasta Vastra Niyantrak Ghantika. Okay, you can remember it all. All right, go ahead now. And hanky is Hastakasnani Vastrakhand. And this
will have to take classes from you.
And this is where my Hindi ends. Okay, so thank you very much. All right. Yes, let's.
Ankit ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Yep, Radhe Radhe. So Nitin ji, I have a question on, there is a shlok in Bhagavad Gita which says, Niyatam Kuru Karmatvam, and then Sharir Yatra, which is like obligatory duty and the life form of our. So where does that obligatory duty lies? Is that the work that we are doing? Is that our obligatory duty? Or is it something else? Because it says Niyatam Kuru Karmatvam.
I can get that. Basically, Krishna talks about two sets of duties. One is duties that are performed at the platform of the body, and the other is duties that are performed at the platform of a soul. He calls it Paradharma and Aparadharma. So the obligatory duties basically depends on people based on the station or the spiritual understanding that they have. To begin with, we don't understand we are a soul. We all think of ourselves as a body, right? So then at that level, like he told Arjun, you are a Kshatriya. Do your obligatory duty of that being a Kshatriya. Don't run away. And then he goes on to tell the concept of Buddhi Yoga. He starts getting deeper into that concept. And then finally, he gives him the concept of perfecting the surrender, science of Karma Yoga, and then perfecting the surrender. So the obligatory duties is a function of what station of life you are in. If you are already at the conception that I am a soul, then these bodily activities do not matter at all for you. Like for Buddha, right? He did not incur a sin that he did not do his duties. He left his wife, he left his kid, he left his family. No, he did not incur a sin because the call of duty that he was doing was much higher. So that duty is really depends. It's very contextual. Our scriptures are not prescriptive to an extent that it gives you a framework where you are. But then, depending upon how much we have progressed spiritually, those duties can keep on changing. They're not fixed.
Thank you.
No worries. Yes.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Nitin, beautiful session. Radhe Radhe, Shyamji, Raoji, and everyone. Yes, when you were saying these lines, thought by thought we forge our destiny. And yeah, this always reminds me one of my favorite lines from Swamiji. So this thought becomes our karma. Karma is not just the obligatory duties that we are doing in the world. Karma is what we have, what we are harboring in the thought, in our mind. That constitutes the karma, and not our bodily actions or actions by our five senses, karmendriya or gyanendriya. That does not constitute a karma. Karma is what we have harbored, the thought behind the actions that we are doing. And if by great spiritual practice, if we are able to attribute all our karma to God as a service to God, as a devotion to God, then even being in grihast or in this world, we can be absolved of the karma. But again, yeah, that is a very elevated state. And when we talk of it being a very elevated state, we have so much of worldly examples that our mind, we are where our mind is. जहाँ हमारा attachment है, हमारा mind वहीं पे रहता है. So if we need to develop that kind of attachment or love for God, to attribute all our obligatory duties, as Nitin was talking, being a mom, or if you're in office, you have certain duties and so many other things that we are supposed to do. The very Bhagavad Gita was a clarion call for duty to the Arjun, and not to run away and sit in Samadhi in the Himalayas. So, but again, yeah, that's very famous. Sorry if I'm going on and on. I don't see the clock. It boils us down to Mamekam Sharanam Braj. I just wanted to state that our karma is what we do with our mind, and not just what we do with our bodily actions. Thank you, Radhe Radhe.
Yes, great point. That's true. Karma is where our mind is. Externally, you might be doing activities, and what counts truly towards karma is what is going on inside our mind. So this concept Lord Krishna has basically introduced, because he's going to lead us into the concept of action in inaction and inaction in action. That is going to be in the next shloka. Okay, this is a very important concept to understand. He's going to lead us into that. But before that, he's actually telling us to reflect which category do you fall into. Are you doing simply going through the motions in life? Or have you started aligning yourself to some of the scriptural principles? Or have you started aligning yourself or your task to a higher principle, scriptural principle, which goes into doing it for the pleasure of God? Right? So all those things, he's actually giving us enough food for thought around where do our actions fall into. And that is a self-introspective activity we all can do. Where do our majority of our activities fall into? And that itself will tell us how much destiny, we are controlling, and are we controlling it in a manner that is beneficial for us or not? And that is why the concept of Karam Yoga is very, very, very important that we spoke about. So today we did Karam, tomorrow we are going to talk about Vikaram. And then we get into Akaram and Karam Sannyas a little bit. Yes, let's hear. A couple of other hands are raised. In the meantime, any announcements we have? You can put the feedback tracker as well, Shyamji, and announcements that you may want to make. But
the feedback tracker already in the chat window. Sure. Please feel free to put in your comments, suggestions, feedback. And then we have Swamiji's first retreat of this year. It is in East Coast in Baltimore from May 20th to 30th. You can attend in person or online. And then we have the family camp coming up in Dallas. That is from June 24th to June 30th. And then, yes, that's it, I guess. In the meantime, I'll just figure out more. And then we have a comment from Shri Ramya ji.
Sure, let me complete the announcements and then we can take that.
Yeah, sorry, please.
Yeah. Family camp coming up. It's a beautiful time of the year. Do plan for it if you have not already. And we have a yoga festival coming up as well. Do check it out and register for it. You can follow it online, and some beautiful, impressive cast of speakers are going to come there as well. So do avail that opportunity. And I think there's a East Coast retreat which has already started, because of which next Monday evening and Tuesday morning session we'll have to call off, and then our sessions resume. But you can attend it online. And Swamiji's lectures, as you know, right? It's like taking a deep dive into an ocean, and you can come out with so many pearls as you do that. So these were some of the announcements. And then please do sign up for the Seva group if you have not already. A lot of people have started contributing towards it, and it has started really adding up. It's a wonderful way to do Hari Guru Seva and reap the benefits of it, because because of your post or your link, somebody gets inspired and get hooked onto one of these sessions, there's a lot of grace on offer. All right, go ahead, Shyamji. You were announcing something, reading out something.
1 second. Yes, I lost the track. 1 second.
Sri Ramya ji is saying, you said? Please go ahead. There was
Yeah,
something.
Ramaji had some question there. 1 second. Which was answered by, I guess, Pragya ji. She's asking, 1 second, I just lost my track. Is karma is equal to obligatory duties we perform these days?
Karma related to obligatory duties that we perform these days. Yes, it becomes karma and not vikarma when you perform the obligatory duties in accordance with the prescriptions in our scriptures around that time. Yes, then it karma, I would say, if you look at the graph, simple line that I had put in today, is it good actions? Let me say karma is good actions. We are all doing it in accordance with our scriptures. That is what I have put in as karma today. And karma is the other extreme of it, where we are not doing it in accordance with scriptures. So today we have looked at the happy path scenario. Let's say everybody is doing the best and with best intentions and doing their obligatory duties to the best of their abilities. That is karma. And karma doesn't take us to liberation or bhakti.
Okay, and Ashutosh has a comment again. He says, many times I forget to say that what I am doing is in service of God. So if I say when that whole day, whatever I will be doing it is for service of God only when I wake up in the morning, is it okay?
So it's a heart talk more than the speech that I'm doing it for you. But if you have accepted that and you feel that, that is good enough, I would say. It's a consciousness we have to build over time. Doesn't come naturally to us, right? Because of our habitual practice across lifetimes of doing things for our own sake and stuff like that. But yeah, if we recite it to begin with, that might reinforce that message, but over time it will sink deeper, and that consciousness will start coming in, where you don't even have to think about it. You just know that I'm trying to do my best because God is there, and for the pleasure of God, and those kind of things. It's a practice we all have to get better at, because it slips so easily. And if you're saying it repeatedly,
and
not
Pragya ji,
go ahead. Sorry, Shyamji, go ahead.
Sorry, yeah. Sorry, please go ahead. Please go ahead. Sorry. Yeah.
No, I'm saying if you're simply saying it but not feeling it, and just making it a vocal exercise, then also it doesn't help. Because God knows the intention more than what we speak.
And Pragya ji says, with every thought, we are creating a karma. We need to watch our thoughts.
Every thought is a karma. Very true.
Okay, so we can take some participants. Padma ji, please go ahead. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Nitinji, can you just go to, I think it was the second slide. Can I just see the second slide? I just want to look at something. At the very beginning, there was not this one. Before this one. Before this one, there was like a broken down. Okay, karma. Okay. That's what I wanted to just make sure before I actually started speaking. So karma is, I mean, today, any action, right? Any action that we perform, that is a function of the mind. And when I say function of the mind, is in which consciousness your mind is functioning, whether it is functioning in godly consciousness, or you're keeping God in your mind, so that your mind is purified. And the functionality of the mind, if it is defined by keeping God in our mind, then most of the time our actions will be mostly aligned with what is the best scenario, what is the best outcome, what is the best action that you can do in a situation, because the functionality of the mind, we have made that as a priority. And in the function itself, when we say f of x, right, the functionality of the x value is God in our mind, then our conscious part of the mind and our intellect mostly will guide us to do something which is more spiritual in our actions, to the best of ability that we can understand, to the best of ability that we can perform. So that's how I'm seeing that the dialogue or the definition of karma, the actions, the physical actions that we do with having the functionality of the mind as keeping God as the nucleus or the center, most probably we're aligned to doing the best of our ability. And that was the one thing that I wanted to say. And the other thing is, we can hear as much knowledge as we can hear as like text and written commentary and whatever, we are hearing. But unless we take that knowledge and put that as a functionality of the mind, our actions are not going to automatically be aligned unless we consciously take that knowledge and put that in the functionality of the mind, and that becomes the conscious part that will translate into our actions.
True. So the definition of karma that you gave, there's a little bit of a technicality there. You actually ventured over to Karma Yoga part of it. Typically, karma, it is restricted to actions, and the devotion element is missing. Okay? And that is where most of the world falls into. So the devotion is missing, and even the actions are sometimes karma and sometimes vikarma, as we would see tomorrow.
Right, but today, did I get this right? Like, is this what we were trying to?
I did not bring God, because God element gets introduced when you start talking about Karma Yoga. So like I said, it is not black and white in all way, right? You might be doing Karma Yoga. It's like a hybrid of everything. Sometimes Karma Yoga, sometimes Karam, sometimes Vikaram, and Karam Sannyas anyway usually doesn't happen. People who are living regular lives. So it's a combination of all. So if you are able to bring God, then you've already, trying to transcend the karma aspect of it. Karma is purely doing your work properly, honestly, beautifully, in accordance with scriptures. That's all. The devotion element is usually not there in karmas. But yeah, you could have it. Like I said, it's not black and white. You have the gray areas. But God says, if you keep on doing that, and you may bring God into mix. In most occasions, if you do that, you are actually doing karma yoga, because now you've started aligning every work to God for the pleasure of God, and even offering the fruits to God. That becomes karma yoga. If you're doing that, then it is actually higher than the karma that we are talking about. It is actually called akarma. We are going a little forward now. It is called akarma. It is not karma. Akarma means neutral karma. Some people today raised hand on neutral karma. So God says neutral karma is what you need to go for. Neither good nor bad. Both are not needed. Both are binding. But yeah, I think you introduced a bit of Karma Yoga part of it as well by bringing in God, which is great, which is even better, because that's essentially aligning to that neutral karma that we're talking about.
Yeah. Subject wise, but whatever that we have bought from our previous lives, right? We don't have any control over that. But however we respond, not react, but however we respond to what comes our way, that is something that we have a control over, which is our willpower that God has given, right? Something, how we respond to what comes our way is something that we can carry over to our next life. And how we respond, because we don't have any control over what had happened in the past, but we do have a control over how we respond to what comes our way, and what we carry to the next life. What is definitely in our control. Like somebody was saying, thought by thought, right? Swamiji, you said, right? Swamiji's right, thought by thought. Yeah,
that is kriyaman, and it is driven by our free will. Very true. That is something we can do about it. It's very much within our control, how we see things, how we react to things, and how we transcend our default or autopilot mode of gunas. That is well within our control. Great point. Yes, Venkatji? You'll have to unmute yourself. Yeah, you're unmuted.
Radhe, Nitinji again. Sir, I have two questions, but I'll ask only one for now.
Venkatji, Radhe, please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So you talked about one Ananya Bhakti, yes, or Ananya, one praying to one God versus the multiple gods, 15 gods, something that you mentioned, right? So most of us, at least people like me, who brought up in such a way that we pray Monday one God, Tuesday another God, right? Saturday another God, and Sunday some God, right? So there are different gods that we pray on each day or so. So this is, most of the people do that way until they choose a particular path, and then they have only Ishtadev and they continue there. So I also have one reference in Bhagavad Gita, that 9.23, where Lord Krishna says that those who are the devotees of other gods and who worship them with faith, actually worship me only, is what he said.
Yes, very true.
So in that case, now if we, does it matter whether we pray to only one God versus multiple gods? And ultimately it is going to the Bhagavan, one God, right?
True. So if you understand this principle, eventually it all rolls up to the ultimate God only, right? Because they are all his planetary expansions. But the problem will happen is that ananyata, that depth will not come in that relationship. You see, it's like you can't fall in love with 15 people in life, can you? No, you cannot. It is, you are simply hedging your bets here. Okay, nobody can fall in love with 15 people because we have one mind. It can get attached to one person intensely at a given point in time. So same concept God is telling you. He's making it easier for us. If all are God's forms, why would you care about loving him in 10 different forms? If you've understood this principle, then there should not be any confusion in our mind to have that resolved. Whichever form you one relate to, it's all your form only. When that knowledge is pakka, then there is no need actually, or to be scared of for that matter. People are scared. This God will now become upset with me because earlier I used to do it more. So to begin with, it is okay. But once we understand the higher principles, you simply settle down for one Ishtadev with an understanding it's all the same. And I have to have an anyata with my God because then I can form a relationship. You'll do Rupjan, you're thinking about 15 people, right? It becomes a little, and then it becomes difficult basically, as sage and scriptures are telling us. They're giving us a framework on how to proceed quickly on that.
So one practical day-to-day situations. For example, today is Hanuman Jayanti, right? At least for South Indians, or in Keri location, we celebrated Hanuman Jayanti today. I know, like there are two. One comes in Vaishak, and the other one comes in Chaitra. And so there are two different. We do Hanuman Jayantis are done multiple times actually. The question is now in those festivals. So we celebrate the respect to God, right? Now, when it comes to one form, so how do we take it is what I'm trying to understand here. So should we see that one God in all the gods, or should we leave everyone and just focus only on one God irrespective of what are the festivities?
Specialties, there are no specialties for God, okay?
No, festivals like today's one festival, tomorrow is another festival.
You look at it like it's you only, like when you bow down in front of it, God, it's your form only. You look at your Ishtadev in everyone, basically. You understand that your Ishtadev is there. See, it's like this. When you see your Ishtadev in everyone, let's say for that matter, if you're a worshipper of Shivji or Ram Bhagwan or Krishna Bhagwan, and you say it's his manifestation only, and let's say you're worshipping Hanuman or anybody, Hanumanji is not going to feel upset about it. Okay. He's going to feel happy about it, that he's actually seeing that divinity. So this is how we have to understand it. One form you pick up, eventually you have to settle down. If you are not settling down, we are going to talk about that shloka as well, Bahu Shakhanam. See, there was a guy who used to win that rose petal competition every year in Masuri. And when it was inquired, how does he manage to win that? He said that, you know what I do? I cut the branches, side branches for all. And because of which the water supply goes to one flower and it blossoms. Same thing in devotion. When you cut all these multi branches, you'll have better focus, intensity, and you'll be able to proceed at a faster pace. So somehow you have to settle it down with knowledge. Not because somebody is saying, with proper knowledge that it's all the manifestation of the same God only. And then your Ishtadev becomes your go-to person. It is said, Ek sadhe sab sadhe. Sab sadhe koi na sadhe. So if you do it one, everybody will be all. And if you try to do many, then none will be. This is how the principle goes. This is what our scripture says. So with knowledge, we have to settle down for an Ishtadev. It is our fear, it is our lack of knowledge, which results in doing a little bit of here and a little bit of there, and on Tuesday and on Saturday, and people are scared of Shani Bhagwan and all that stuff. So this can go on and on and on and on. There are a lot of lectures, Maharaji Swamiji, I can share with you, but this concept has to be understood properly with knowledge.
Thank you, Nitinji.
Without any fear and without any doubt.
Yes, Nitinji.
Hopefully that helped, Venkatji. Yes, Ramyaji.
Yeah. No, we'll take Ankurji. Ankurji, please
Yes.
go ahead. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Ankurji.
Ankurji. Can you hear me?
Sorry, muted myself. I'm sorry. So, Radhe Radhe, I wanted to ask a question when you said about neutral karma. So, can you just tell me about with an example what exactly does neutral karma, not having a positive or a negative side to it with an
Yeah, that's a good question. I think you probably missed our Karam Yoga session. So basically, when you do positive karmas, right, you are accruing a lot of spiritual merit because of that. So it's like you're making a lot of deposits in your bank account. And because of that, what happens is when you do the positive karma, good karmas, or punya for that matter, you get a bank balance. Okay, it starts swelling up. But you have still not attached it to God. So what happens is that bank balance is given to you in your next life in form of a better life in a Swarglok. And that becomes your withdrawal only account. So once your account is replenished, you are back to 8.4 million. Similarly, if you do the negative karmas, right, you waste your life, you do a lot of sins and all that stuff, then you go to hellish abodes. And then when you deplete that negative balance, then back to zero again, you're back to this thing. Neutral karma is called when you are multiplying your karma with zero. You're not doing any binding karma. When you think about God and do it as a service to Him, then it becomes a neutral karma where you're not accruing more baggage of karma in your life. You're not adding anything more. And at the same time, you are getting better in surrendering to God. So it is a multiplication with zero. For example, Arjun killed so many people. Hanumanji killed so many people. But in God's spiritual realm, it was counted as a multiplication with zero. No murders. Because it was done with a consciousness that as a service to God, that is called neutral karma. So Karam Yoga is a neutral karma. Every other karma is a binding karma. Pap and Punya, both are pap. That is what Sri Maharaj Ji say. Why? Because both are binding. What are you going to do with Punya? Go to Swarg and come back again? Big deal. Why not start attaching mind to God? That will help you. If you want to take a small vacation and go to Swarg, that is fine. But that's a bhog yoni. What are you going to do? You are going to come back eventually. And then in the process, you might have deepened your sanskar where there is fun and enjoyment in this world. So it doesn't help at all. That is what our scriptures are telling us. Hope that answers.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you, Radhe Radhe.
Thank you.
Samji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. So Nitinji, so the thoughts are also karma, right? How karma works with those thoughts? I mean, we may wish good or bad for someone. So how does that affect us?
Yeah, so it is locked as a karma. So if you are getting upset with somebody and thought, I wish I would have punched him, you have already punched him in karma, even if you physically did not. So God has already noted it. Okay, so physical act doesn't matter. Your mental act is getting noted. The log is already maintained. And that becomes your sanskar as well. So every thought is logged as a karma. Now kinchit hi kshanamapi, I think that shloka is there in Bhagavad Gita. Not even for a second God says we are without karma. Why? Because we are thinking and every thought is a karma.
That means if someone punched me and I did not punch back because I was afraid that someone else will catch me and punish me for that. But I punched him or her in my mind. That means that the karma is over without me punching back. I mean, how is that fair? I should also get it.
Arithmetic of karma is over or not, but it gets logged as your sankalp. God is called who has a log or maintain of the sankalp we had made pratikshan of every life. That means every moment, every thought, every lifetime, God has a log of that. So that is getting recorded. Now, whether you had actually punched and thought, would you get a more severe result as opposed to simply thinking and not punching, or simply punching, not thinking? I don't know that algorithm. But the point is every thought is a karma. That is the key thing to be noted. We cannot say I simply thought and that is not logged as a karma. No, it gets logged as a karma. And that is why Mansi Bhakti, God gives, it's a double-edged sword. You can reap the benefit of it as well. So if you're simply thinking about God in your mind without actually going to the temple, you get the same benefit. Similarly, if you're thinking negative about a person without actually doing anything negative, that is also logged as a karma. Somewhere it is logged as a sanskar as well. So that is the power of thoughts, basically, because God is noting every thought. So punching business is even in world, if you look at it, right? Even the judges, they try to establish the motive behind an act. If somebody has stepped over somebody in a car, in a BMW, in the middle of a night, right? We had a case. The judge will try to establish the motive behind it. And if the motive is to kill, the punishment will be given. And if the motive, it was purely an accident, the punishment will not be given. So homicide case will be if the intention was there. Now, judge can make an error because he's human, and the witness could be somebody else, and the person who's fighting the case is somebody else. But in this case, God is the witness, God is the judge, and God is logging every thought. He doesn't need any proof of your intention. That is how it goes. So next time,
scary. It is too scary. But people who do not know about scriptures, I guess, are better off, because we now are fully aware what is what, and knowingly or unknowingly we are in this dilemma or this world.
Ignorance is not a bliss, Shyamji. That's what I used to think as well.
I know.
Fire will do its job, whether you do it knowingly or a kid comes and put the hand in fire. Fire will not discriminate between, hey, he's just ignorant, he's just a kid. So similarly, ignorance is not a bliss. Okay, and we have so many lifetimes in ignorance. So that is
then I'm not aware now what's happening around me. I am just doing because I'm ignorant. I'm a fool. It's okay with me. I will have no clue what's happening where. But since now I am fully aware of things of my karma or my scriptures or Gita, I'm very careful what I do, what I think, how I react, how I respond. So I'm in a different zone, different mood altogether now.
Yeah, there is a movie, right? Darna Zaruri hai, so just watch it again. No, not to freak you, but God says, if you say that I'm going to lead my life in ignorance, then also you're not doing yourself a favor, because too much is given, much is expected too. He's made you human. He's given you this thing. Right? So you better first understand and then start aligning to those principles. You cannot say, I will just leave my life. That's just not an excuse of being a human.
I know, because early on I was also praying to different gods. I told you earlier also. I was praying to Lord Shiva, Ma Durga, Hanumanji. And for the past 2.5 years, I've just stopped everything. I haven't gone to temple for last 3 years now. And just because of these sessions, I am more clear now. I only want Radha Bhakti, as you said, and I'm very much clear. And I have no doubts, no fear of what other gods will think. I know that Krishna is there. He'll just make sure that things fall in place for me. Yes.
Let's hear from Ajitji and Sandhya. Yeah, that's true. See, the commander-in-chief, if you have established intent, then his ministers and all will comply. Okay, be rest assured. They're not going to trouble you. They're only going to be happy that you have gone to our commander-in-chief.
Yeah, that's the case with me. I'm more at peace now. More better now. Yeah. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Ajitji. Yeah.
Radhe Radhe. Actually, we don't have any control and command over our thoughts. It comes naturally and continuously.
Yes.
Even though if you want to keep silent, something will come and go.
Yeah.
So how to control your thoughts? Now everything comes to thoughts for karma, to make it akarma or something. So what is the clue?
So this question was asked by Arjun as well to Lord Krishna. He said, Chanchalam hi mana Krishna, mana durnigraham chalam. He said that, Lord, this mind is very, very chanchal and very difficult to, you can control wind, but not mind. Then Krishna's response was, he did not say, Arjun, are you kidding me? He said, Asancham hi mahabhaho, mana durnigraham chalam, abhyasena tu kante vairagyena chagriyate. So he says, yes, I agree, Arjun. It is obstinate and difficult to control. However, with practice and detachment, you can do that. So my point here is, practice detachment is needed, but we need to do some certain practices. Feed our mind with correct knowledge, correct thoughts, do meditation, then once the quality of mind starts improving, these random thoughts that come will also start improving. It's directly related to the quality of our mind. That means our mind is dirty, old. We have not worked hard enough. We have not started cleaning it up as yet. And that is why these kind of things come. But then you start making your mind your friend. Right now, it's not our friend. Scriptures say that, right? Bhagavad Gita itself says your mind can be your worst enemy and at the same time best friend. Right now, it's our worst enemy. And spirituality is all about making it your best friend. That is why spirituality, there's no other technology available. No matter whom you go, how many WhatsApp forwards you read, whichever person you talk to, people will give gyan, don't take tension, do this, do that. I mean, how is the question? How is spirituality? That is the only way to improve the quality of your mind so that it has productive, fruitful, beneficial thoughts. There was a joke, right? The guy in an oasis going in a desert and he's feeling thirsty. So he said, how nice it would be to have water. So the water comes. He said, wonderful. How nice it will be to have good food. Good food also comes. He said, how nice it would be to have an air-conditioned room and sleep in this hot desert. That also happens. And then he thinks everything I'm thinking is happening. What if a tiger comes and eats me? And tiger comes and eats him. So this is how our mind works. So we need to get it under control through these spiritual practices and by putting right kind of knowledge, thoughts, practices for it.
Okay, Radhe Radhe.
It's a long journey for sure, but yeah, at least we are taking the baby steps. Yes, Ankuji.
Radhe Radhe. So it was just to add on, I mean, what Nitinji had said. Of course, I follow as a practice that I just observe my thoughts at times when I meditate. So I consciously, concentrate on my breathing part. It's a part of a meditation. And when you observe your thoughts, what exactly, and bring back your mind again to your awareness, it helps. Though I am not able to do it for a longer period of time, but then the consciousness arises. That's what helps.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Ankuji. It is called witness consciousness or Sakshi Bhav. It is one of the tools on the path of devotion that helps diminish the intensity of our thoughts. However, scriptures say when you start attaching your mind to pure, that is God, then it will start getting purified as well. Sakshi Bhav would help you observe it and quieten it down. But calm, krodh, lobh, moh, greed, anger, all that stuff, that purification of mind will only happen when you attach it to God as well. Because God is all pure. And that will start diminishing the intensity of all these imperfections and dirt that we carry in our head. So that is the Ramban, Brahmastra, or silver bullet towards cleaning our mind. There is no other way. No matter what you do, whatever practice you do Kriya, you do Shambhavi Mudra, you do Kriya Yoga, you become Falahari, Dudahari, Ghasahari, whichever Baba, it will not clean your mind. Unless you do Rup Dhyan, whatever practice you do Kundalini Jagran, whatever you do, unless you have attached your mind to God, it will not get cleansed. That's a very simple principle. Yes, Padmaji.
Padmaji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. So, spirituality is not a war zone, and you have to repeatedly say to yourself that this is not a war zone, but as a safe zone, because you're under God, right? You're I'm not saying the level of Sharanagati, the surrender, but at least your willingness to right now we are here. So from a point of looking at being here itself, take it for granted that you are already graced and you're already blessed that you're on this platform. So you actually have a very good padding and the starting where we are starting. So if we look at this as a war zone, this is so hard, this is so, yes, it will be confusing, I feel, but that is where God actually raises up our bars. So because he knows that we can reach up to that potential, and he says, but I have to see you put some effort, and I know that you have this capacity to reach, and otherwise he will not place us in a situation where we are not ready for it. He will only place us in a situation where he knows that we can go to the next level, but we have to show that willpower and take it as a very good padding where he is okay even if we fail, but with a very good consciousness that we are showing him that we are trying, and then that process of actually trying and trying and trying, he loves, I feel like he loves that we actually try. We might fall, but we are actually falling on a very good spiritual ground. And that, I think, it gives us that fundamental understanding of our awareness, which Nitinji and other person was talking about. And on top of it, if you put the cherry on a pie, which is the devotion piece, slowly as you try different things, how you can develop your devotion. Does your devotion is higher if you're sitting in satsang? Is your devotion higher if you're listening to Swamiji's lecture? Is your devotion much higher when you're listening to bhajans? Take that as an anchoring, and then start building upon like the other factors and the layers where you can develop the devotion, but from a very compassionate and loving place, that I'm already blessed, I'm already graced that I am here and I'm able to listen to this wisdom. It's already gives you that courage and conviction that we will go forward, but not backwards.
Yeah, great point. Not sure Hetalji went to sleep listening to that, so let me try to wake him up. Yes, all right. Great point, Padmaji. So I think the key point that I understood was that yes, God gives us tests. If he gives us tests way below our ability, then we will be complacent and be in our comfort zone and will remain where we are. And if he gives us a test way above our ability, then it will break us. So he sets stretch goals for us, but goals which are well within our ability, but at the same time help us progress a little further. And when we reach here, he raises the bar, and then raises the bar and raises. But the key thing is to have the faith that whatever test is given to us, like you said, is something. It may be a bit of a stretch goal, like the given corporates, but that stretch goal is for our benefit only, so that we can evolve and come out of it with flying colors and become a better version of ourselves. That faith we need to have. Great point, Padmaji. Thank you. Let's hear from Sandhya.
Radhe Radhe. So I just wanted to reiterate that statement that nothing in human life makes sense except in the light of devotion. So I mean, what we are learning here is I think instead of taking it as a fear that, oh my God, I'll have to control my thoughts because they can decide everything, I think we all should see it as an opportunity that it's just by our thoughts we can control our destiny, right? We can get out of that cycle of binding karmas, and our thoughts does not really depend on anyone else. It just depends upon us. So that way it's a very powerful tool that we have, and if we realize it that way.
Beautiful point. Swamiji's new book is coming, Power of Thoughts. Okay, so I'll try to bring in some nuggets from that book. It's a beautiful book, and through thoughts we can do so many things. And the art of life is to break the pattern of the autopilot mode setting that we have in our thoughts. Right? First, we have to understand what is the quality of thought my mind is. That constant chatter that goes on in our head, that self-talk we keep on doing throughout the day. We have to first observe it and then improve the quality of it. There is a self-talk going on throughout the day in our subconscious. Sportsmen harness that ability by saying, come on, you can do it. They verbalize it at times, but there's a constant chatter we are speaking to ourselves. Just observe that and see the quality of it. Are you being negative? Are you just cursing somebody? Are you just feeding stress into yourself? That constant chatter has to be watched, and that is the whole game of improving yourself. The stepping stone to start improving yourself. Your self-talk, kids do that. And as grown-ups, we do that as well all the time. So just pay attention to that constant chatter. Are you thinking about some person just non-stop, and some negative sentiment building up? What is the quality of that thought is something we need to be mindful of, and over time get better at that. Great. All right. Are we done then?
We have Padmaji's hand raised once again.
All right. Yes, Padmaji. And then Hetalji has woken up as well. So let's hear from you as well.
I just wanted to say you have to give yourself that opportunity. Nobody is going to give it to you. You have to give yourself that opportunity in the midst of being whoever you are, in the midst of doing whatever you need to do. You have to give yourself that time and space to be fundamentally study your mind and look at those 5 people or 6 people or 6 situations or 6 things which are constantly drawing upon your spiritual energy. You make those spiritual balances, and who are those 5 people, who are those 5 situations, who are those 5 instances, what are those 5 memories in your past, what is your constant fear about your future that your mind is constantly going upon. Identify those 5 things about the future, identify those 5 things about the past, identify those 5 people in your life, identify those 5 fears in your life, put it on a piece of paper, meditate on it, and say, you know what, give yourself that blessing and the time to sit and identify those things so that you're tackling the bigger wars, and those little ones will settle themselves eventually. But you have to really sit in your space and identify who are those people, who are those thoughts, what are those pains and aches and memories, what are our fears for the future, and put it on a piece of paper and just sit with those and retrain your thoughts around those couple of things which are really troubling you.
Yeah, anything that works as a strategy for us. If we can verbalize it, label it, contemplate upon it, and systematically tackle it, nothing like it. Great tool. Thank you so much, Padmaji. Yes, Hetalji, real quick.
Yeah, I was in sadhana, not in sleep mode anyway. I was listening in very quietly. Yeah. So I think I was listening one incident.
What you were doing, I call it meditation, by the way. So
no, it's not, anyway. I'm fully conscious now. But okay, there was one incident I heard from Mukundanand or some of the Swamis. There was one Israeli minister, not minister, but right now is a parliament member. And he was being captured by Russian soldiers.
Viktor Frankl, are you talking about?
Yeah, but yeah, it was Mukundanand said, right, something.
He was caught by Nazis during the World War II. Viktor Frankl.
World War II, yes.
Nazi concentration camp. Yes, that's right.
Correct. And he was being captured and captivated in the jail, in the prison. And the way when we are talking about just the thoughts and all the processes, so he did not lose the hope, but he started just like kind of playing the games, chess games. And after he released from jail, and then he beat Gary Kasparov, and he beat like 10 people at the same time as well. So just playing by mind games. So there are so many things in the mind. And when we are talking about the thoughts, the self-talk, and let me tell you, the one thing is by listening to you and some videos, Mukundanand or any other Swamis, which inspires you, that also improves your thought processes. So that's what I observe myself as well.
True. When we keep feeding ourselves the divine knowledge, it starts changing your perspective, your thought process. A lot of changing you can realize. That is the power of, what we feed ourselves through our ears, and the power of contemplation over it as well. Yeah, it starts changing your perspective for sure. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you would have realized it as well. Great. With that, we come to the end of today's session. We can do our closing prayers. And I'm not going to ask you any Hindi word today, okay? Because my Hindi vocabulary is very limited. So let's do our closing prayers. Who wants to take a lead today?
Hetalji has his hand, so we'll take Hetalji.
Please go ahead.
Hetalji.
So tomorrow we will continue. Sorry, Sri Ramya ji, we could not take your take on Falgu Viragya, but we will discuss it. Tomorrow we will give preference to Sri Ramya ji to talk about it.
Sure.
Let's do our closing prayers.
Om Sarve Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niyamaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukhabhat Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for a wonderful session. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day and a wonderful rest of your evening. Falgu Viragya, Akarma, Karma, we will just discuss that tomorrow. So see you tomorrow.
Thank you all. Radhe Radhe.
Thank you, Shyamji.